So we're going to test a bowling game. Or actually, yes. Maybe we should just call it bowling game test PHP. Okay. Let's get started. I'm going to make a PHP file and I'm going to make a test case. And the test case will be, I'm going to use these lines. Test case name will be bowling game test. And I'm going to put this in the namespace. I don't really care about the name. Oh, in fact, sorry, I'm looking at my screen. Namespace. Let's put it in Kata namespace for now. So we have a test. Does it fail? We should, of course, check that. You know, I'm going to do a little. No, I'm not going to do a little thing. We have to move this package over. It's in my view. I can't really see what I'm doing. Ooh, we have a failing test because we don't have any tests. Okay, so let's start, of course, with making a failing tester. Actually, let's make it testing. What should we test? What do we want to do first? We want to create a game, right? So let's make sure is everything correct. Yes, it's correct. Let's see if we can make this test fail. We want to create a new game. So we will do a game. We already talked about that. Let's call it new a bowling game, for example. Oh, and it fails because the class is not found. I'm going to resize this window just a little bit so we can see the last error. Well, what could we possibly do about that? KB, old folders, where are my files? Where directory am I in? Like, where the heck am I? Oh, no, days. Where's this editor looking? Folders, you know. Let's try opening that editor again. Yes, it was a little bit confused on who was where, and we opened it on the wrong screen. Okay, so we're back. Let's create a con editor. Yeah, it's apparently a little bit too early in the morning for the editor. Let's create a bowling game. Okay. Come on. Yep, save it. Yep, yes, it's going to be like some PHP stuff. There's going to be a class. The class name is going to be bowling game. And we don't need to extend anything. And I don't think we need a constructor right now. Actually, we don't need this comment either. We need to put it in a namespace though, because we should. We are currently in the Kata namespace, so we use that. Let's see what happens here. Well, bowling game class was not found. What do you mean not found? Bowling game. Oh yeah, I know why. Because we're not using composer and we're not actually including that thing. I'm going to go to I'm going to try to go to two columns like this. And I'm going to take the test, I'm going to move it over here. Or should I do it the opposite way? Yeah, I kind of like having it the other way. I kind of like having, because I'm sort of driving it from the left side and pushing the stuff into the right side, if you see what I mean. I'm going to have to create a bowling game. I'm going to have to require the bowling game.php. Okay, and that sort of works. Okay, so we have a game. Good. What do we need to do with a game? What's the most simple kind of game you could possibly ever think of? We're going to have to roll 10 times because we have 10 frames. No, we have 2 rolls in every frame, so we're going to have to roll 20 times actually. And if we don't hit any pins at all, the score would be 0. That's kind of a good starting point. You know, you should always start at the most simple and stupid cases. So let's call that a We hit all the balls in the gutter, so I'm going to call that a gutter game. Scores 0. That's what I'm going to test. So for let's call it I, 20 times do tell the game that I rolled and I hit 0 each roll, right? After that, the game score should be what? Should be 0, right? Yeah, okay, so we can assert same size, assert equals, expected 0, and actual is the score, right? Seems good. Let's oh, that fails. We don't even have a roll method yet. Well, I could have told you that. So, well, we need a public function called roll. It's going to take a number of pins that we hit. We could call it pins down, pins knocked over, or whatever. I'm just going to call it pins for now. Method, okay. Then, we don't have a score method, of course not. So, oops, I'm going to public function called score, no, nothing, and it needs to return 0 actually. And it passes, great, so we fixed the first test case. Well, that's kind of boring. Can you think of any other kind of game that would be easy to simulate? What about all ones scores? If I hit one pin every time, only one for all of my 10 friends, which means for all of my 20 rolls. How many points does that add up to? Well, that should add up to 20, should it? Scores 20. So all ones scores 20. So I roll 20 times. I should end up with at least 20. Not a great score, it's not going to win any medals, but at least it's something, and I get a failing test. Okay, so obviously we're going to have to keep something here. We're gonna every time you knock something over, right? We're going to have to add that to the score, right? And actually the score is, we have one score per game. So we're going to make a score here. It starts out at 0, right? Like one game has 0 points. This score plus equal to the number of pins, and then we just return this score. Should work. Okay. So, do we have any other special rules here? Well, we have this thing when we are now, take it easy. We've done like test. We haven't done any refactoring yet. Is there any refactoring you can possibly see here that we could be doing? Well, if we look at the test, I see that this, which is kind of the main game loop, is duplicated twice, and so is instantiating the game. We could possibly do that in the test setup method instead. Like we could take the setup of the game, make that an instance where the test case, this game, okay. Then we can remove this line, oops, and the test is still passing, it's not passing. I have an error on line 24 because it cannot access game. Yes, that's pretty clear. I just renamed it to replace all of these to be this game, right? That looks better. Okay, still passing. So then the actual game loop here where we roll, the only thing that, what's the difference between these two? The difference is only this variable, right? So we could possibly take this out, make like a little private helper method where we just roll. Let's just call it roll, and this is the number of pins that we hit in each, and we roll 20 times, and each time we do pins in each, right? Then we can remove this, and we can just call this roll. Actually, if we don't roll only once, it's sort of misleading. I would rather call that roll many. And not only any, of course. Sorry, that was me doing. That's a mistake. This is me clumsy with the editor. We roll many once, right? Or actually, we should call it roll all, because that's actually what we're doing. Agree? We're all of them. All of the rolls for that game, we only hit one. So we say hit one. And that means for our 0 game, we can actually just use roll all 0. Okay, still passes. So we have a getter game where we roll all zeros. We have that one scores 20, where all rolls 1, and the score equals 20. That's good enough. So what's the next case? Well, we have this concept. Now we've basically done the thing you need to calculate scores for 20 frames, but we have these special cases of strikes and spares. Strike is more complicated than a spare because it looks forward 2 frames. So we're going to have to probably do a spare test first. Test spare. Skip spare gets a bonus. So in this case, I'm not going to do roll all. I'm going to go back here and do game first. Let's create a spare. So we already made the example where we first rolled a 5, and then we hit 5 again. So now we have a spare. And then, in order to calculate the score for that, we need to roll 1 more time. So how many pins should we hit? Give me a number. You're not that good at guessing, are you? Well, let's say number 3 or 2 or 9 or 6, 8, 7.
It's the next.
Any. Okay, I'm gonna type 3 then. So we get 10 on the first frame, and the next one is 3. So we rolled 3 times. So we're gonna have, in order to finish the game, we're gonna have to roll 17 times more, right? In order to get 20 rolls in total. So actually, it would be good if this roll all was, I'm gonna do a little refactoring here. Sorry, because I want to use roll many and the amount of times. Like now I already had spent up 3 rolls, so there are 17 left in this game. And all of those has to be 0, because only then can I calculate the score, right? So we start with a spare, then we knock over 3, and all of the other balls in that game are better balls. So I'm gonna have to mark this as this, mark test skip for now. Just to get back. So my other tests are still passing. I'm skipping this test now because I want to do a little inline refactoring, but I'm not really in the refactoring phase. So roll all, I'm gonna change that to be called roll many, and here I'm gonna take the number of rolls that I need instead. Oh, I'm going to change this too, of course. Sorry, I did this. Roll many, 20 20 rows of 0, this one rolls 20 rows of 1s. So I need to take in the number of rolls and pins of each. So now I should do E equal to rolls, right? And so my old tests are still passing. Then I can continue with this one. Let's see. 13 does not match the expected 20. Oh, what 20? 20? No. It's not going to be 20. The score for this game is going to be 5 plus 5. That's 10 with a spare, so I'm going to get the next score is 3, so that actually this is going to be 10 plus 3, and then plus 3, which is total game score of 16, right? You get it? That's how you calculate the score of the spare. We established that. When you do a spare, when you knock out all 10 in one frame, you actually get the points from the next roll. So 10 plus 3 is 16. So it should be 16 here. Still, it's kind of failing because now it calculates that the score was 13 because we are not really dealing with any magic stuff here. Any spares. So where do we deal with that? It's when we calculate the score, we need to, well, first we're going to have to, obviously, if we're going to sort of look ahead. Imagine we are iterating over all the rolls. We have 20 rolls in this game. In order to calculate, if we see that the sum of these two is 10, then the actual score of that frame is 10 plus the next. So we're going to have to keep track of the rolls. Let's call that the rolls of the game. It's like an array. Then each roll will have a score, right? The number of pins knocked down in it. So where should I put that loop? Should it be in here? This tells me that there is a bit of a design error here because roll, what does roll do now? What's this? Let's calculate the score, right? But the method is called roll, and we have a method called score that does not calculate the score, it only returns the score. So this thing should probably be happening in here. Should probably be happening in the for loop then. So I'm going to loop over all of my rolls. The rolls should be 20 by default. So this is when you instantiate variables like this, or declare them, this initial value cannot be any executable code because this code here is not actually ever run. This is only set when you instantiate your class. I'm going to have to do that if I want to execute some code. I'm going to have to do that in the constructor. Right? That's what we have the constructor for. So in arrays, I would like to be this array of 20. But I can't really use 20. And so it's going to have to be a little bit bigger than that too, because there can be, no, that's actually correct. At most, there are going to be 20 rows. But in PHP, you cannot define the size of a variable because, the size of an array, because arrays are dynamic. Like if this was C# or C or any other Java or whatever, I could do some sort of new array, and I could give it the size when I initialized it, right? And then I would get an array that was exactly 20 spots long. I would like it to have a fixed size here because I think it will help me in my code. At least I would know that I will not, by mistake, create a game with 31 roles or something like that. Fortunately, in PHP, there are standard libraries. Well, there is a standard library. Let's see. If we go to php.net, and this is this little sideline here, and we check array. Array creates an array. Size, fixed size. If you want to create an array of a set size, you have PHP 4. This comment is 13 years old. Well, I don't think that's really necessary to read that comment because it's too outdated. Fortunately, we can define in the standard library, the SPL, the standard PHP library. There are a bunch of classes. It would be great if we could list all of them here. I happen to know that fixed size, array, fixed size, array. Well, you see, PHP is not that helpful because array, fixed size. Yeah, if you do like this, then it finds it. Fixed array. Sounds exactly like what we're looking for. So that's part of the standard PHP library, one of the standard data structures that is included with versions greater than PHP 5.3.0. The fixed array, for example, functionalities. The difference between a fixed array and a normal array is that the fixed array is of fixed length and allow only integers as indexes, and that's exactly what I want. I want to have a thing that I can say it's gonna be 5 in length in total. And if I try to put something else that doesn't exist, then it's also an error. Okay, so let's use an SPL fixed array. We're gonna have to do that in the constructor. This roles. So I'm going to remove the initiator here. This role is a new SPL fixed. Oh, there I have an SPL fixed array of size 20. Okay. So now I have all the roles I need. Then I can do loop over, count, or actually, yeah, use count for this roles, just so I don't have to type 20 twice. And I'm gonna have to calculate the score should then be, like if I have the role, roll here, I need to know what. Yeah, actually, now I can do this. I can save. Roles is now like an SPL fixed array acts just like an array, so I can push to it like this. Like when I get a new role, I push the number of pins that I knocked down. That's all do on what I call role, but I save in the array how many I did for the current, and I start at the first one. Array starts empty. And then when I calculate the score, the loop curve score will be not the pins, but I need to look up in this roles $I. That's where the number of pins I knocked down for the current role are. So I go through all the roles and I add them up to the score and I return the score. I'm going to have to use visibility here, otherwise it will complain because I make a public constructor. And it wants me to format it like this. Okay. Oops, now we get some sort of weird error. Invalid out of range. What? PHP bowling line 16? Game store? Sorry. 16 in here. This one becomes. Why is this out of range? I'm just pushing to the rolls, right? That shouldn't be out of range. It should start at 0. Well, that's funny. Maybe I have to actually. I don't know. Maybe I have to keep track of the current roll, like which one I'm in, right? I will start by 0, and instead of just pushing to the array, I can set it for current roll, and after I've set it, I increment the current roll. That's going to have to be this current roll. That works better. Now my old test cases still work. I'm back at the place where 13 does not match 16. Okay, so I'm going to have to, obviously here now, in the score method, I'm going to have to calculate, I'm going to have to check if this is the score of the current roll, right? So if the current one plus the next roll, like if the value of these two is 10, then I know if that one is 10, then I know that I knocked down all the pins. So I know that this is a spare. Then I'm going to calculate the score a little bit differently. I'm going to do this score is equal to 10 plus the frame, the roll. So if I'm on the first one, 0, 1, so I'm going to I plus 2, right? I'm going to take the score from the 2 rolls ahead. And when I do that, that frame is complete, so I'm going to have to increase. Let's see. Should I do increase current roll? Oh, actually, I should probably keep track of. I don't know. I don't know exactly. Else, just calculate it like before. I'm just going to put this back for now. Well, invalid out of range again. Now it's on line 23. Rolls of I plus 1. Why would that possibly be failing? That's because this will probably cause failing the last frame, right? Yeah, because in the last frame I'm on roll number 20, and here I'm actually looking, this becomes 21, and because I'm using that fixed array, that's gonna fail. Could I get around it somehow? Could I use 21, 22? Well, actually, I had to think about this. Do you have any idea? Oops, sorry, close this window. Actually, I'm going to keep this one because it's good to have. needs to be, the total number of rolls needs actually to be 21. Because what if the 10th frame, I already said that the 10th frame, the last one is special. What if that one becomes a spare? Then I'm going to have to throw one more time. So I'm possibly going to make 21 rolls in the game. Well, it still fails on the game line 23. It still fails here. Why is it doing that then? Less than the country rolls. Plus 2, it was 2. I'm not so sure. Why is it failing? Actually, I see. Meanwhile, I'm doing this. I'm going to do maybe a little clean. No, I'm not going to do a little clean. Why is it failing? Test. It's failing for all cases, right? So we can see that it fails each time when we call score on line 16 in the test, line 22 in the test, and line 32 in the test. We always get index invalid or out of range on line 23, so it's here. Maybe this is, why is it failing? If I set the game size to 21, it should sort of work, shouldn't it? Actually, we're not going to loop through the rolls. I think it's better. We're talking about score here, and the score exists per frame, right? So it would be better if we looped over the current frames instead. And we could still have a counter for the roll we are in, but we also need to keep track of frame. Because we're going to have to do like 10 frames. So instead of looping over the rolls, we loop over the number of frames. The number of frames should be 10. So let's do while frame is less than 10, frame plus plus. Okay. So now we are in the first frame, and I still is initialized as 0. Where do we have? Oh, there's apparently this is too much. So what you missed is I just concluded that instead of looping over individual frames, we are scoring. Instead of looping over individual rolls, we calculate the score per frame. So we should obviously be iterating over each frame too. So we start on what we call frame 0, which is actually frame 1 in the game. And if in that game we check the rolls like this, if they are 10, if it's a spare, then the score becomes 10 plus the one after 0 and 1, roll number 3. And when that's done, we go to the next frame. So we also need to sort of forward our pointer to the next roll. So we spent 2 rolls in this frame. So we do I plus 2, right? To skip that 2 rolls in the future. Oh, that works a little bit better. At least it's. But now all ones score 20. Assuming that 10 matches expected 20. 10. How did we get 10? Oh, it's because now we are looping over the frames. So in order to calculate the old score, we need to. For a normal frame, it has 2 rolls. So it's roll number 1 and roll number 2 for that frame. we still need to move I forward. Or what? Is that better? 2, 0. Now it's completely bugged out. Lucky we have the test. We should do the rows of I plus the rows of I plus 1. That should be enough, I think. And we should save the score of the rolls to where this starts out. We start on the first roll. Yes. And we start on frame number 0. And we loop 10 frames. And then double checking to see where the heck, where we went wrong. And we are checking that the current rolls, which starts 0, plus the next one, if that sum is greater than 10, or if it is 10, then we go into the spare mode where we say, okay, the score, equals, the score should be plus equals, of course. And the same thing here. We are, every time we're looping to a frame, we need to add to the current score. Hey, it passes! Okay, that's sweet. So, you want to refactor? Well, first I would say, test vector game, roll 20 zeros, it's 20, roll 20 ones, it's 1, roll 5, spare. Well, this is a comment, and you know what I think about comments? I think they should go away, so I should, let's clean this up. Let's make that comment into a method instead. This roll spare. Right? Just a helper method. Instead of a comment, let's just comment. Private roll spare and nothing. Oops, air. And that's the way we roll a spare. It doesn't really matter how we do it. We're just abstracting it away so that the test becomes a little bit easier to read. Is the test passing? It is. Okay, so we roll a spare and then we roll a 3. And then we roll 17 zeros. We end up with 16 score for that game. So the spare gets this vote. Let's look over here if there's anything we want to simplify. I'm going to go to big screen. Possibly, like where is the score kept? The score is calculated here and it's only used here. So there's really no need for it to be an instance variable anymore. It only makes it more annoying actually. So maybe we should take that from here. Make it a local variable there instead. We start out with a score of 0 and we calculate the score and we check all instances. We change all instances of this score to be just score. Okay, it's a little bit shorter. And we really, now you see I'm instantiating like 2 loop variables here. I'm not sure if I like that. It's kind of ugly. It only saves me 1 line, but I can keep it. But what the heck is I? Really? Like, look into my eye. What? What does it mean? It means rolls. So it's like we're looping through the frames, and each frame has 1 or 2 rolls. So it actually means the current roll, right? But it's not the current roll. It's like the roll. It's not really the current roll either. What it actually means is it's the roll where the frame starts. Because like if a frame, look, if a game has now we have a spare. If we have a normal frame like this, block, and we next frame here. This is the number of pins I wrote down. The first frame would start on the first one here, right? And the second frame would start on this roll. But if I score a strike, it's slightly different because then here, then the first frame is already over. So the next frame, the next frame will start on roll number 3 instead of roll number, it will start on roll number 2 instead of roll number 3. I think what we mean with the I here is actually like the start of the frame, or like index of frame, or start of frame, because the start of frame is so long. Start of frame, it's like next frame. It's the current. It's like the frame index, maybe the sub-index of frame. That was pretty good. So the frame index and the number of the frame, like frame number 0 starts at roll 0. Yeah, that's correct. Then we can say that, okay, for the first frame, look at the roll where it starts and the roll after. That's how we make a snare. Oh, can you see what this is? It's a comment. You know what I think about comments? I think they're a terrible thing to keep in code, at least for a long time. So instead of using a code, what we're doing here is if. This is like a predicate, basically. It answers the question, is this a spare or not? That's what I would comment. So maybe we could just extract that into a method called a Boolean method. Starts with is spare, and the number of the what's the frame index. We need to pass in the frame index. If this is a spare, then do this thing. Okay, so it sounds like a start. Function private is spare, and we get our frame index from there. So we should be able to just say if the score of 10 is equal to the current frame roll and the roll after that, I'm just going to return that immediately. Kind of weird, but okay. Does it? Why is it complaining? Error parser. Where's the parser? Can you see the parser? Is there a parser? I can see one. Maybe I'm blind. There's no parser. There's just my editor that's gone completely bananas. Yeah, you see, it says that the parser even though this line is empty. Hello, Sublime, please. Oh my goodness. Okay. So it works. No, now there's a real parser. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's a parser for you. Not the I don't have. This should be correct. It is correct. Okay. But there's something wrong with my editor. It says that there's a parser, and it's actually very slow and spinning the wheel. Maybe it's time for Sublime to take a little break here. First search Okay, we're back. This time without errors. Yes, good. So we have what's this line doing? It sort of calculates the spare bonus, right? It calculates it. That's how we get the score. We set 10 plus whatever this is. Maybe we could just do that. Current roll. No, sorry. This spare bonus. Actually, we do it clearly. We know that if it's a spare, the point are 10 plus the spare bonus. I'm just trying to make it a little bit more readable. I don't know if this is the right way. Private spare bonus, and we need to pass something in, right? In order to know the spare bonus, we need to pass in that frame index again. So it's rolls plus 2. Actually, we could choose to add the 10 out here, or we could choose to do 10 in here. Where do you think the 10 belongs? In the function or outside? Well, technically, the bonus is separate from the 10 pins that we knocked over. So I'm going to keep them outside. Return rolls right plus 2. Okay. No, sorry. Now we broke it. Spare bonus. Missing argument 1. Well, I can tell you what's wrong. This argument 1 is missing. Frame index. Okay, so we're reading again. Then else, this just calculates our normal score, right? And the normal score is, it's like the sum of the two rolls of the frame, right? Sum of rolls in frame. Yeah. Function private sum of rolls in the frame for the frame index, and it's just going to return something like this. Okay. So that's a little bit. Now the main score function is actually doing the scoring, and it's a little bit. It doesn't have a lot of calculation in it. It has more English phrases. It doesn't have any comments, so I'm kind of happy with that. Now, we need one more test case, right? What happens when we roll a strike? We tested the strike gets a strike bonus, and the spare gets next roll as bonus. Strike gets next 2 rolls as bonus, or as bonus. I would probably say 4 bonus if we're going to be grammatically correct. Now, let's keep that as sense. Okay, so I already have a helper method here, so we should probably follow this pattern. Let's say that we have one called roll strike. So if we roll strike and we get the point of the strike 10 plus the next 2 rolls. So maybe we roll like 2 and a 3 or something like this. Then this is 10 plus 2 plus 3. So we get 15 in the first one. 15 plus 2, 17. And then 17 plus 3, well, we should end up at this point with 20. So we've done 1, 2, 3. We should still have 17 rolls left, right? I think. Yes. No, we rolled 1 more. We only have 16 left. And the score should be 20 for this game, if my calculation is correct. We're going to have to double check that. Strike? What's strike? What the heck is a strike? I don't know. A strike. Okay. So let's go and implement this roll strike. It's basically going to be the same as roll spare. It's going to be even more simple because we roll 1, 10. That's a strike. it's just instead of saying in a comment that 10 is a strike, we can just make a method called strike. And then if we had another test case where we still needed to roll a strike, we could just do roll a strike instead of having to remember roll 10. Does it work? Yep, it works because it fails. Strike gets next 2 rolls as a bonus. We now calculated 15. So, because we've been cleaning our code between the tests, it's kind of in a good shape already. We can sort of figure out here what would be a good place to place the logic in. Like if it's a strike, then we need to calculate the strike bonus, right? 10 plus the strike bonus, and then we jump forward 2 frames, 2 steps. Actually, in that case, it's only that's special. When we have a strike, we only use 1 roll. So in that case, we know that the next frame starts only 1 roll ahead instead of 2 rolls ahead. That's what makes the strike a little bit special. Sort of it moves the index of the frames. And otherwise, else in PHP, you can write either else if or else if. But you can see my editor here is set up to warn about standard things, and actually it says usage of else if is discouraged. Use else if instead. So else if will work exactly the same, but it's recommended that you use it as 1 keyword, else if. So we'll write else if. So like this, we get the spare bonus, and we jump forward to 2. So we need to implement the strike bonus method, right? That's what's missing. Oh, is strike. Yeah, first we have to figure out if something is a strike or not. Well, we have a pattern for that already, so we're just going to duplicate that pattern. If something is a strike, when is it a strike? Well, we know that when 10 is equal to the current roll. If this roll that we're checking, if we hit all the 10 pins, that's the definition of a strike. Now strike bonus doesn't exist. Well, I could have with that already. Let's just look at the pattern. So we're going to just duplicate the spare bonus here and create a method called strike bonus frame index. So the strike bonus returns us the next frame plus the next roll plus the roll after that. Yeah. So if we roll a strike, we need to, the bonus becomes this roll and this roll. And that's what we're pointing at. Plus frame index plus 1, frame index plus 2. And it passes. So, is there anything we need to refactor? Well, maybe is strike bonus, is spare bonus, strike bonus. Maybe we could change the order of things here, so we have the strike handling here, and we can put them in the same order. Oh my goodness, what is that? It's like an angry bee. I just put the private methods in the same order they're being called, so this does not matter at all. Is spare, strike bonus. Is strike bonus. The sum of rolls in the frame, and we should keep it there. So if we take a look at the code, what we end up with here is a bunch of tests We test that the gutter game scores 0. We test that all ones scores 20. The spare gets the next roll as the bonus. The strike gets the next 2 rolls as a bonus. And in the actual implementation, what we end up with is a constructor, a roll method, and a score method. And most of the action actually happens inside of the scoring method. For each of the 10 frames, if it's a strike, you get 10 points plus strike bonus. We could actually rename the strike bonus to, we get the sum of next 2 rolls. And if it's a spare, we get the 10 plus the sum of next roll. And otherwise, the score becomes the sum of the 2 rolls in the frame. Of the 2 rolls. I'm just going to call it the sum of rolls. And if you listen to what that sounds like, to score, it starts with 0. We play 10 frames. Each frame, if it's a strike, you get 10 plus the sum of the next 2 rolls. If it's a spare, you get 10 plus the sum of the next roll. Otherwise, the score for the frame is the sum of the rolls in the frame. And that's exactly the rules of bowling. I just said them out literally in English, in prose. And in my mind, that's the definition of clean code, right? It tells exactly what it does. So that in this story, we started talking about the design of the system, right? Which is over here, which is where we had a game, and the game had frames and the rolls had like a special 10th frame, and each frame had a reference to the next frame. That's like the object-oriented analysis of the system. But what we end up with is a method that is like 22 to about 10 or 8 lines long. It's a for loop and an if-else case. And that's kind of cool. Okay, so that's the end of the bowling Kata. Y'all at y'all.
You're like a bit complicated with many. This game has many conditions.
Well, not that many conditions actually. You can see the conditions here. It has if it's a strike or it's a spare. Otherwise, it's the normal case. It's only 3 possibilities. Sure, you need to. It helps if I had not used the game already has its own like domain language, as we would say. The game has its terminology. It already talks about frames, and it already talks about rolls, and it talks about score and pins knocked down. So I don't need to invent those words. I can just reuse them. And because they have a specific meaning, and because I developed it using baby steps, it's quite easy. If I started making a loop trying to keep track of like I and I plus 1, I plus 2, and then an inner loop with a J and like stuff like this, yeah, I'm probably going to end up with a mess and probably going to be buggy. And I don't know really how I would test that in the end. But for a case like this, where you know the exact rules and your only task is to model those rules